Okay. I need a mic. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchedoye Allahudi sanmiao sanpatoshie. Wu shang shen shen wei miao fa, bai qian wan jue nan zao yu. Wo jin jian wan de shou chi, yuan jie ru lai zhen shi yi. Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture this evening. This is a special event. We are currently building up towards Ullambana. And Ullambana, Ullambana法会, Ullambana is a Buddhist holiday that deserves more attention worldwide. So we're going to talk about the Ullambana Sutra and look into this particular story. This is a Buddhist story that has moved the hearts of more people worldwide than probably any other single story in human history. That sounds like a big claim, but I think I'll prove it tonight. So I need to first acknowledge country, and then I need to blow my nose. Hold on. The Kumbumeri people of the Ugambe language group practice their spiritual connections to land, to living beings, and to all creation here in this location for tens of thousands of years. Today, we acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of this land. We acknowledge them with gratitude as we share this land and with sorrow for the cost of that sharing, with hope that we can move to a place of justice and partnership together. We acknowledge their wisdom and their elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge all First Nations peoples whose sovereignty was never ceded. All right. So I hope we have something very special going on tonight, which is translation into Putonghua, into Guoyu, Mandarin, provided by a kind-hearted volunteer. And if you would like to listen to a Chinese translation, how is that done? Does everybody know how to find that? They have already got it? Okay, there's a link. So we very much appreciate the hard work of our volunteers who make it possible for people who, makes it possible for me to speak one language, which is very nice. Let's see here. And also, it allows folks to, who are in China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, wherever Chinese language is spoken, can also enjoy the things that I say. I appreciate that very much. Also, that means that I get to speak twice as much Dharma. If I have to translate for myself, that cuts the time in half. So you get to hear more, so you should be really grateful to the translators. All right, let's see. We have friends from Australia, Malaysia, Guangzhou, Singapore, Tianjin, Shenzhen, Shanghai. Let's see, Hong Kong, Shenzhen. Let's see, Hubei, Malaysia. Lots of Malaysian friends, Singaporean friends. Where else? We have someone from Pinole, California. Paul is here. San Ramon, California. Texas, Virginia. Let's see, where else? Okay, Jilin, Taipei, Guangzhou. Let's see here, Hebei, Baoding. 我去过，我知道保定在哪儿。哈尔滨，let's see here, 朝阳，广东。Then we have, where else? Let's see here. 台北市, Beijing. We have Tianjin, 草兴, don't know where 草兴 is. 法国, 哇，中国什么地方叫法国？不是中国。苏州, okay. Then we have 淮南市, and let's see, Singapore and Shanghai. Okay, good. I very much enjoy discovering all the wonderful places that people tune in to hear the Dharma. And if anything, in a time where the world seems to take any opportunity to fight, any reason to conflict, to struggle with each other, to have something that allows us to come together is quite wonderful. So if that is the Buddha Dharma, then Bodhisvaha. If I was a Christian, I would say hallelujah. So we say Bodhisvaha. Putisvaha. Okay. Now, the title of my talk, and by the way, I wanted to tell people that I will be repeating this talk in 2 days at the City of 10,000 Buddhas Sunday night Sutra lecture slot, which is 7:30 California time, which turns out to be 12:30 on Monday here in Australia, 10:30 a.m. in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia. It will be essentially the same Dharma, the same content, but if you like what you hear or want to listen again, then there will be a chance. Today is Saturday night here in Australia, and then Monday morning, Monday noon, midday, 12:30, that will be Sunday night City of 10,000 Buddhas, 7:30. That's also available on YouTube. And there's also a Zoom link for folks who cannot get YouTube. Okay, so that will be coming up. Let people know about that. Now, there's going to be something that folks, probably few of you know about. Let me bring up my files here. Bring that one up. Let's bring up that one. And we'll bring up, let's see here, there we go. We'll bring up that one too. Okay, and we have another one that has to come up, and that is this one. I'm going to start here and show everybody. Let's see now. I don't know if, can you see that? I don't think YouTube can because I'm not sharing my screen. Let me do this. Have to pop it up first, then we can share. Here we go. Okay. Who is this distinguished monk? His name is Jin Ming, Shang Jin, Xia Ming, 法师. In Malacca, they call him Jin Ming Shangren. He is recently, not long ago, deceased. He was a friend, a Dharma friend of our teacher and founder, Master Hsuan. And I want to show a photo. This one will do it. Look here. In the center, you see our teacher, Shangshen Qiawala Heshang. On Shifu's left, on your right, is Jin Ming Fashi. Where are we? We are at Wuguanzai Tang, Qianbian, at City of 10,000 Buddhas in California. This is 1984, and it is the graduation of Dharma Realm Buddhist University. Isn't that wonderful? This is Wu Ming Zhanglao, there on Shifu's right. This is Wesley Wu, Dr. Wu, who has just received his honorary PhD from Dharma Realm Buddhist University, Rongyu Boshi. And behind him is Helen Wu, his wife, Hu Guoxiang. So I wanted to show this photo to identify Jin Ming Fashi and to make it clear that he and Master Hsuan shared a vision of the Dharma coming to the West through education. Master Jin Ming was a teacher, classroom teacher, among other things, many other things. I won't give his whole biography now, but I will say that Master Jin Ming was a very important person for the Mahayana in Malaysia. One of the things that he did was write essays about Ulambana. Ulambana, that's, some people are unclear about how that word came into being. Some people say it was Pali, some say it was Sanskrit. The Chinese translation of Ulambana is Jie Dao Xuan. So to save people who are hanging upside down, meaning people who are in the hells. Ulambana is there to save ghosts, people who have lost their human bodies and are in the hells suffering as ghosts, or in the realm of ghosts suffering. So this goes back to a story, and the story happened with Buddhist disciples, one in particular whose name was, in Sanskrit, Maha Madgal Yayana. Everybody say Maha, Maha. Try it again. Maha Madgal Ya Na. Maha Madgal Yayana. Ready? Maha Madgal Yayana. 7 syllables. Maha Madgal Yayana. That's his name. 太长了，哎呦！ So what do we call him? 木莲, right? 木莲,木莲sang. Okay, so in Chinese his name is Mahamagayayana. In Pali they call him Mogalan. In Japanese it's Mokuren desu. So let's just call him Mulian in Chinese. He was number one of the Buddhist disciples, number one in Shentong, psychic powers. He accomplished his Wu Yan Liu Tong, his 5 eyes, and his 6 psychic abilities. And, what he did was he looked for his mother because he was a devoted filial son. His mother had died already, passed away early. And he knew about his mother. His mother had bad habits. She liked to gamble. She slandered sutras. She ate lots and lots of living creatures, particularly seafood. So she ate caviar and killed in one meal thousands of lives. So fish eggs, right? So Madhyayana said, I wonder where my mother is. He looked for her and discovered his mother indeed was suffering as a ghost in the hells. Broke his heart. He was completely distraught. He was so upset because he's one of the Buddha's chief disciples, and yet his mother is suffering for her own karma. We don't think about our mothers suffering, do we? That's not supposed to happen. Well, it was happening. So he, luckily, had a 大善知识, a good and wise advisor, who he could go ask for help. He ran to the Buddha. The Buddha said, I thought this might happen, but you know what? My strength is not enough to save your mom, he said. And you go, I wonder about that. Really? That's what he said. He said, but the strength of the assembled Sangha, who are here now because it is the end of the rains retreat. Every year, the Buddhist disciples spend 3 months indoors because the rains fall, the insects wash up. If you walk every day for alms, you're going to kill animals, insects under your feet. So the monks stay indoors, the laymen bring food to them, and then at the end, they scatter, go back out for 9 months to wander. The Buddha said, luckily, this is the Fo Huan Shi Er, Pravarana Day. This is the Jie Sha Anju, the Sha Anju Jie Sha Lai Le. The summer retreat is over. They're all here. You know what? You get them together, get the lay people to make offerings to them, get them to recite mantras and sutras, dedicate it to your mother, we can save her, said the Buddha. Oh, Madhyayana is like, oh, of course. Okay, so he runs. He gets everybody, says, come on, please, make offerings right here in the Buddha Hall at GCDR. We have offerings fit for Madhyayana's mother, okay? And all those who have deceased. Look at all those offerings on the table. All of the Mahayana Daochang, the monasteries in the world right this minute, are doing the same. You'll find tables and tables full of offerings, of things that the Sangha can use. Okay, offerings were made, the Sangha came together, they heard the story, they said, happily, we'd love to. They recited for Madhyayana's mother, it worked. He looked with his vision, he saw that she was saved. She was rescued from an eon of suffering as a ghost. Oh, he was so happy. But he didn't say, that was great, thank you. He said, it worked for my mother, will it work for everybody's mother? He said. The Buddha said, so glad you asked that. So glad you asked. That is the 大乘菩萨的根心念，那是菩萨的根性。He said, that is the Bodhisattva's resolve. Good for you, it's good for everyone. Let's make sure everybody's mother gets saved. So he said, yes, it will. It'll work for everyone. So the Buddha said, every 15th day of the 7th lunar month, we will make offerings to the Sangha and the Sangha will dedicate merit, and our ancestors, including 7 generations of ancestors, will be crossed over. He said, we'll call this the Day of the Buddha's Rejoicing, the Ullambana festival. So that was the story. The Chinese heard that story. It came from India, and the Chinese called it Mu Lian Jiu. Madhyayana saves his mother. It became Asia's most popular story, most repeated story. That story has now become Chinese opera. If you come from Hebei, it's part of Hebei Bangzi. I saw in Hebei, in Shijiazhuang, at Bailian Si, I saw the Hebei Bangzi of Mu Lian Jiu Mu. It's a movie, it's a comic book, it's a manga, it's a lianxuju, it's a Chinese soap opera, it's a song, it's a poem, it's a story. This story is told over and over and over. Because why? We all came from mothers, and when they pass away, the question arises, where's my mom? How's she doing? Could I do anything to help her out? We all have that question. We wonder, And without Madhyayana's vision, we don't know the answer. We would like to, but this is a universal, ageless, timeless question that arises to every son and daughter who have ever lost a parent. So, universal question. Very significant, very important question. And here is a Buddhist story talking directly to that universal impulse, that wish to find out, where is my mother? Where is my father? Okay, why? Now, coming back, what's happening here, Master Jin Ming said, you know what? He said, Chinese culture took this wonderful Buddhist story that is all about what? Filiality, 孝顺, 报父母恩. Took this Buddhist story that talks about filiality and repaying parents' kindness, and you know what they turned it into? They turned it into 中元节, 鬼节, Ghost Festival. The Ghost Festival. 甚至于, even to the point where during this time right now in Taiwan, I have friends who don't go out at night because they're afraid ghosts will grab them. 他们就怕就鬼所抓着，晚上不出门了，鬼出来了。And he said, that's really missing the whole point. Ulambana is about filiality. It's about your parents are gone, but you didn't forget them. You kept them in your heart. So he wrote essays, and he endeavored, Master Jin Ming, endeavored in Malaysia to澄清 Ulampan Zhenyi, to rescue the fundamental meaning of Ulambana. This is an essay called Being Filial to Parents and Repaying Their Kindness is a Common Culture Aspect of both India and China. He wrote an essay and published it. 效法母莲供养上. Let's imitate Madhyayana and make offerings to the Sangha of the 10 directions. The benefits of the Ulambana Dharma assembly that comes from Buddhist culture. 宣扬母莲 Gong Sang Gu Shi Qiu Zheng Ren Min, right? So look at this. So telling the story of Madhyayana offering to the Sangha and rescuing, setting straight the corruption of popular culture that has ruined Ulambana. So he was out to save this wonderful story. 多种善因无造杀业. Create plant wholesome seeds down. Don't kill. Don't create the karma of killing. So, 中国 Ullambana the story of Ullambana and how it got propagated through Chinese culture. And so essay after essay, written by Master Jin Ming. And I, because our teacher, Shifu Shangren, Xuangong Shangren, is also a filial son who was very mindful of his mom, who sat by his mother's graveside for 3 years after her passing. Shifu opened my eyes to filiality. This is Master Jin Ming as a brand new young monk. 金明法师刚刚出了家，年轻, right? You see what a fine man he was, and a wholesome, good-looking bhikshu. And see, here he is as a 大德高僧, Jin Ming法师. He taught at in Qingyunting. That's where we first met him, in Malacca. So he is a proud Bumiputra, a proud son of Malaysia, and a real teacher of Dharma in the world. So I thought we start here. So if we know that, let's put that away for now, and I will stop the sharing. We know that Ulambana, basically we know the story. We know that Master Jin Ming looked out at Chinese culture, in this case in Malaysia, but it's also true of Taiwan, also true of China, also true of everybody in Chinese culture worldwide, that popular culture misinterprets Ullambana. So here we are, we're now in the Gold Coast of Queensland, and we're in a beautiful Buddha hall, and the Ullambana tables are set out, and they're just full of, let's see, I can see soy sauce and toilet paper and rice, and let's see, where's the keys to the BMW? Let's see, is that in the middle? I hope, yeah, we're fine. So lots of things that the Sangha uses every day, and these, as I said, every monastery worldwide has Ullambana tables, if you're part of the Hanchuan Fujiao, Chuantong. So what I would like to do is put on the screen, and maybe we can also, do we want to, let's see how big it is. If I want to recite the Ullambana Sutra along with everyone, and close that guy, and as we, let's see, shall we recite first? Let's do this. Instead of reciting first, let me bring up my analysis of what the Ullambana Sutra contains, and see if, we'll go over these first, and then as we recite the sutra together, both in Chinese and English, I want to show you, see if you can pick out these themes as they come up. So, okay, look what I've got here. I have 16 major topics that arise in the Ullambana Sutra, and it's a really short sutra, but it's got so much. The sutra contains many helpful principles that we can investigate as we establish the Dharma in the West, and that includes where we are today, and integrate Asian religious perspectives with Western culture. These teachings are embedded in the cultures of India and China, but the virtues they inspire are universal. Everybody feels these connections to our parents. Number one, filiality. The story of Mulian Zhongmu reappears throughout Asia in various forms. Even mothers can fall, right? Bai shan, xiao wei xian. Filial respect is the foremost among all good deeds. 2, Mulian just got enlightened. He feels gratitude. He wants to repay her mother's kindness. He looks around. Uh-oh. Guess where he sees mom? His priority after getting enlightened is his first relationship. So the question is, once you get enlightened, what's the first thing you do? So after enlightenment, what do you do? In his case, he went to find his mom. Benefits from offering to the Sangha, including blessings and salvation. The Sangha recites mantras and sutras, and Mulian's mother gets saved. The necessity of a good and wise advisor to help you in times of need, right? That's the Buddha. Mulian runs to the Buddha. The Buddha says, my strength isn't enough, but if you get the whole Sangha together, you'll bang, right? So the Buddha's expedient means what he comes up with, what the Buddha prescribes. He makes preparations for the Buddha's ability to eat in the future by saying, oh, I can't do it, but my authority isn't enough. He lowers himself. He gives power to the whole Sangha. Think of that. He says, I'm not the power guy. I am not the Supreme Lord. I am not the God in chief. He says, you get the Sangha together, they can help. And by doing that, the results of that is in the future, like today, 2022, here we are, people making offerings to the Sangha so we can have soy sauce and toilet paper and toothbrushes. There's always too many toothbrushes. Lots and lots of toothbrushes. Oh, boy, we could use a different toothbrush every day and we would still have them. So, the power of community, the end of the summer rains reach. And if you offer toothbrushes, thank you. We need them. Don't think we don't need toothbrushes. As soon as I say something like that, there will be a drought of toothbrushes. There won't be any for weeks and months. But the end of the summer rains retreat. Unselfishness on the part of Modgalyayana. This is the Mahayana not impulse, inspiration. Inspiration. It worked for my mother. Well, it worked for everybody's mother. And the Buddha says, good indeed, unselfish. Okay, the ability of somebody with psychic powers to see into the hells. The need to save Ulambana from becoming 鬼节 or 中元节, ghosts. Chinese culture takes a Buddhist legend and turns it into something else. Reincarnation, the fact that your bad habits and your faulty character stick with you. What do? When, your mother shows up as a ghost. The power of huixiang, dedication, transference of merit. The power of karma, even mothers can fall. Indian stories, Pali tradition, laity are seeking blessings only. That's another story. The Buddhist calendar and Chinese culture, the fact that Master Jin Ming wanted this to be, he said he wanted Ullambana to be on every calendar. Public calendar, right there with Christmas and Easter, because it's an important holiday. Okay, and then the fact that Ullambana became a popular culture theme. Songs, plays, movies, novels, operas, cartoons, and national holidays. So, okay, those are the themes that I came up with as I looked at Ullambana. We're going to recite the sutra. Let's see what you think. Let's see if that's what you find happening in the Ullambana Sutra. Okay, is that big enough? Can you all read that or not? Yes? Okay. Now, I'm going to invite everybody, if you'd like to, with me. Now, first, before we do it, I'm going to put my palms together as the sutra, the Buddha's words, and it's short. It's only that long, right? It's pretty short. When we recite together, this is a wonderful opportunity to bring our community. There's 20 plus of us here in the Buddha Hall. Those of you listening at home, encourage you to do it. It would be nice on Zoom if you shut your, everybody is muted, right? Good, okay. Those of us here in the Buddha Hall together, I'm going to pay attention to the punctuation. The punctuation is your friend because it tells you where to breathe. See this comma? We recite that comma right there. We recite that as, thus I have heard. Pause. Right? Breathe. Once the Buddha lived at Sravasti in the garden of the benefactor of orphans and the childless elderly. What's that? That's a period. What do you do? Stop. What do you do? Inhale. Mahamagayana, we've already learned that one, haven't we? Look at that word. That's his name. Mahamagayana had just revealed the 6 spiritual powers and wished to take across his father and mother, I would probably breathe there myself, to repay their kindness for raising him. Stop. Just then, comma, using a spiritual vision, comma. So we pay attention to the punctuation, it allows us to breathe together. And when we read it, it sounds very nice, very nice. It breaks it up into units that we can read together and our minds digest, like taking bites of the sutra. Okay? So, another point about reading together, reading in unison, is although we're speaking with our mouths, we also want to use our ears and listen to the person beside you, the person in front of you, the person behind you, and just loud enough, not reciting, not right. Reciting too loudly, also not right. So just enough. And when we recite with our ears and we use our eyes on the punctuation, very quickly we become yi ko tong yin. We recite in unison. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's do 3 Namo Ban Shi Shi Jia Mo Ni Fo. 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 Ready? Sutra of the Buddha's teaching on Ullambana. Thus I have heard, once the Buddha lived at Sravasti, in the garden of the benefactor of orphans and the childless elderly. Period. Take a breath. Mahamagayana had just revealed the 6 spiritual powers and wished to take across his father and mother to repay their kindness for raising him. Period. Take a breath. Just then, using his spiritual vision, he contemplated the world and saw that his deceased mother had been reborn among the hungry ghosts. Having neither food nor drink, she had become a skeleton covered with skin. Mahamagayana, feeling deep pity and sadness, filled the bowl with food and tried to give it to his mother. But after she got the bowl, she screened it with her left hand, and with her right hand made a fistful of food. Before the food entered her mouth, it turned into flaming coals and burned her mouth and tongue. Ouch. Can't hear you, by the way. 听不到你们的声音. Mahamagayana, crying aloud and weeping sorrowfully, ran to the Buddha to tell him what had happened. The Buddha said, "Your mother has created weighty offenses. Her habits are strongly rooted." Pause. You alone do not have enough strength to affect the situation. Although your filial cries move heaven and earth, the celestial and terrestrial spirits, the demons, the heterodox believers, Brahmins, and the 4 Deva kings also lack strength to help. It will take the awe-inspiring spiritual power of the assembled Sangha of the 10 directions to set her free. I'm going to teach you a method now which can lead beings with troubles and worries to leave their misery behind. The Buddha told Mahamagayana, the 15th day of the 7th month is the Pravarana day for the assembled Sangha of the 10 directions. Prepare an offering of clean basins full of flavorful foods and ripe fruits. Make offerings of incense, oil, lamps, candles, beds, and bedding, all of the finest quality, to the virtuous Sangha of the 10 directions who have gathered, and do so for the sake of fathers and mothers of 7 generations past, as well as for fathers and mothers of the present who are experiencing difficulties. On that day, gather the Sangha of sages, whether they are in the mountains practicing Chan meditation, or realizing the 4 fruitions of the path, or walking beneath trees, or using the sovereign self-mastery of the 6 psychic powers to teach voice hearers and Pratyeka Buddhas, whether they are 10th-stage bodhisattvas appearing as bhikshus, all of these sages alike in their single-minded focus and complete with pure precepts and ocean-vast virtue, should gather in a great assembly to receive the pravarana food. If you then make offerings to the pravarana sangha, your present father and mother, your parents of 7 generations past, as well as the 6 kinds of close relatives, will leave the 3 paths of suffering, gain liberation, and be clothed and fed. If your parents are still alive, they will enjoy happiness and blessings for 100 years. Parents of 7 generations past will be reborn in the heavens with sovereign self-mastery, enjoying celestial flowers and light, and feeling limitless happiness. At that time, the Buddha instructed the assembled Sangha of the 10 directions to recite mantras and dedicate the merit for the sake of the donors' families. Then, with their minds as still as in Chan meditation, they may accept the food for parents of 7 generations. When they receive the offerings of food, they must first set it in front of the Buddha in the stupa. When the assembled Sangha has all gathered, they can recite their mantras and make dedications. Only then can they eat the food. At that time, Bhikshu Madhyayana and the assembly of great bodhisattvas were all extremely delighted, and the sound of Madhyayana's sorrowful cries ceased. Then Madhyayana's mother was set free from 1 eon of suffering as a hungry ghost. Madhyayana said to the Buddha, "This disciple's parents have received the power of the triple jewels, merit and virtue, and the inspiring spiritual strength of the assembled Sangha. In the future, if Buddha's disciples practice filiality by offering the Ulambana food basins, will they also be able to take across their present fathers and mothers, as well as those of 7 generations past?" The Buddha replied, "Excellent. I am happy you asked that question, as I was just going to explain the principle. Good people, suppose bhikshus, bhikshunis, kings, crown princes, lofty ministers, officials, cabinet members, the 100 chiefs, and the myriad citizens wish to practice compassionate filial conduct for the sake of the parents who bore them, as well as for the sake of fathers and mothers of 7 lives past. On the 15th day of the lunar month, on the day of the Buddha's delight, the day of the Sangha's pravarana, they should place hundreds of flavors of foods in the Ulambana basins and offer them to the pravarana Sangha of the 10 directions. They should vow that their present fathers and mothers' longevity will reach 100 years without illnesses, without sufferings, afflictions, or worries. They should also vow that 7 generations of fathers and mothers will leave the suffering of the hungry ghosts, be born among humans and gods, and enjoy limitless blessings and happiness." The Buddha told the good men and good women, those disciples of the Buddha who cultivate filial practices, when making offerings, in thought after thought, should constantly recall their present fathers and mothers, as well as the fathers and mothers of 7 lives past. For their sakes, they should perform the offering of the Ullambana basins to the Buddha and the Sangha, and thus repay the loving kindness of the parents who raised and nourished them. At that time, the Bhikshu Madhyayana and the 4-fold assembly of disciples, hearing what the Buddha had said, practiced it with delight. End of the Sutra of the Buddha's teaching on Ulambana. Okay, so well done. First time in English together. It sounded very nice from where I'm sitting. Everybody was breathing, looking at the punctuation. So, in that short text, how many of those teachings, those principles did you see? Did they all come up? They're all there, every one of them. How interesting, right? How did that become 中元节, 鬼节? How did that become ghost holiday? Was it mostly about ghosts? Well, partly about ghosts, but not mostly. No, it was mostly about Madhyayana and his kindness, and his forethought that he knew his mother was suffering and he wanted to help her out. So, and it's also about, the Buddha's ability to come up with a good method to help Madhyayana. Okay, so we're going to do it again, everybody. And this is the Chinese rhythms are already in place, and they've been there for a long time. So, see here. There we go. And we'll make that just a little smaller. Big enough? 看得见吗? Clear? 清楚啊? Okay. So let's try it. And we will, Yin Yong, could you give me the 木鱼? 那个木鱼帮我拿了，好吧? Okay, either one. Okay, sorry. 好。It's very helpful to have one rhythm. Okay. Now, same thing, same principle. As we read, see whether you can find those 16 principles that I mentioned here. See if, because it goes. We're going to go, we'll take it this fast, probably about that speed, so we're not too fast. And as we read in Chinese, see if you can pick out those principles, and because we're going to come back and discuss them. All right? Okay, let's start with Namo Banshu Shirja Moni for 3 times. Namo Banshu Shirja Moni for Namo Banshu Shirja Moni for Namo Banshu Shirja Moni for 山中，或在山间禅定，或得四道果，或在树下静心，或流通自在，声闻缘觉，或是地部大人门前比丘，在大众中皆同一心受波诃罗，具清净界上中之大器的汪洋有供养此等子此僧者，现在父母六亲眷各处三途之苦因世界作一世子，若父母现在这福了百年，若其是父母生自在化生如天华光，是否自是方中皆现为施主家周远远，其是父母行禅定，然后受施主受施是现安在佛前，他寺中佛前众僧周远近遍着手目连比丘，这是目连比丘及大菩萨众皆大欢喜，目连悲好其生是安处灭，是目连目即是得脱一切恶鬼之苦，目连受弟子所生无得往三恶功德之力，众僧为神力故，若未来世一切佛弟子，一应放于盂盆救度现在父，乃至其是父母可而为法佛言大善怀问，我正要说如今复问善男子比丘比丘不忘太子，大乘在向三公百光万民殊人行此小者，现为所生现在父母，过去其是父，于其也是无二佛欢喜，僧子次日100为梵，九龙安中是十方子此僧言是现在父，寿命百年无病无一切苦恼之，乃至其是父母离恶鬼故，生人天中不乐无极是佛弟子，应年年中常与父母，乃至其是父母年年其也是无，常以孝顺以所生父母，为作无量本是佛具僧，报父母张扬慈爱之言，且父弟子应当奉持时，目连比丘奉行无量佛说无量盆经。叮，wait for it. I only have 2 hands, so yeah. Okay, so that's the Ullambana Sutra, and let's take a look now. First, okay, I have a story to tell you, and the story goes like this. Do we know when we first planted in this lifetime the seeds of faith in the Dharma? I'm sure each of us has, maybe it wasn't just once, maybe it was a few small times, but there was something. When we are children, at some point, somebody shows us a sutra, or somebody shows that we get to see a monk or a nun, we get to see a Buddha image, we hear a sound, something clicks. And it's as if our mind was a garden. We talk about Xindi. Our mind was the ground of the earth. A sprout of faith in the Dharma arises. With the right conditions, that sprout gets bigger and bigger, and it becomes a blossom, and it comes to fruition, and a harvest, and we really have deep faith in the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha. What was that moment? When was that sprout? When did that seed first arise? For me, definitely one of those times was in a summer session at, let's see, a summer session at Middlebury College. I was there, it was 1968. And one of our professors at Middlebury Summer Session of Chinese, Middlebury Summer Language School, a professor's name was Jamie Pusey. Jamie was a wonderful professor. His wife was Wang Qifang, Annie from Taiwan. And the two of them were very musical. They loved to sing, and Jamie was a choir master. He went to Bucknell University and was involved in music and choir. So he said, our Chinese summer school needs a summer choir, our Huchang Tuan. So he found a bunch of wonderful Chinese songs, and we learned Chinese through singing as well as through the classroom. And what songs were there? Oh my goodness, you would all be surprised at the Chinese songs that I can sing, including 我命苦真命苦，一生一世交不了好丈夫，人家的丈夫做官做多福，我家的丈夫只为大花鼓。Yeah, that's enough. If I sing any more, you're going to lose faith in the Dharma, you know. So, what? Oh, we learned that one. We also learned 万里长城，万里长城，城外面是故乡。宝梁飞大楼响，遍地闻名笑赞扬。自从南兰平地起 etc., etc., etc. I know all the words, right? I really have to be careful with the next ones because they include such things as 社会主义好，社会主义好 or 三民主义 right? We learned them all. So 起来不愿做奴隶的人民，把我们的血肉筑成我们心的长城 Yeah, on and on and on. So lots. Okay. He just had a whole book of popular songs from the 20th century, right? So you can cut that before you publish this video. Okay, among the songs was one that went like this. And I think I was 69, so I was 18 years old. And Jamie Pusey taught us to sing 昔日有个木莲上九牧其里林的雨满借问灵山有多少路？有时万八千，有余力南无佛。And then we all went, 阿弥陀佛. Too low. And then we went, 阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿 Tofo. 18-year-old college students going in Vermont, going, Amitofo, Amitofo, right? Now, along with 社会主义好 and 三民主义, I was also reciting the name of the Buddha. And I believe that this was one of those moments where something went sprouting up from my mind and reciting the Buddha's name. So at the time, did I know that in the future I would be saying Amitofo a lot, the Buddha's name, Amitabha? No, I had no idea. But it happened. And those seeds arise when the time is right. So look at this song. Okay, for those of you who don't speak Chinese, why don't you? Why haven't you learned Chinese yet? So you should. Okay, 昔日, in the past, 有个, there was a monk whose name was Mu Lian. Who's that? Mahamagayana. 救母亲, in order to save his mother, Lin Di Yuman, went down to the door of the hells. Please, may I ask of you, how far is it to Magic Mountain, to Lingshan, in other words, to your own Buddhahood? 有108000有余里. It's farther away than 10 times 10,000 times 8,000 miles. Namo Buddha. Buddha saved me. Amitofo. Right? What a wonderful song. This is an Ullambana song, clearly, that made it into Professor Jamie Pusey's songbook. So along with all the the silly Chinese opera songs and the political national anthems of China and Taiwan, here was the Forchu is what? Buddha song. Right? Buddha song. So how wonderful. And it wasn't until years later, I'd already become a monk, when I thought back and, what was that song? Right, that was Jamie Pusey, right? Who the Middlebury College Summer Chinese School chorus, singing Amitofo, 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 like that. And it's like, okay. So that those early sounds that we hear really go deep. Who knows what was the key that, opened the lock on your wisdom. Okay, so let's take a look now. Number one, certainly, is the principles that are embedded in the cultures of China and India, but are also in the heart of every human, and I would add to that list lots of birds that I see here. When you see a butcher bird mother teaching her offspring how to be a good butcher bird, right in front of your eyes, clearly the little one is in school, and the mother will come to the humans to help, to have us help teach the baby. It's happened to me numerous times where the butcher bird mother kind of checks me out to be sure that I've got the mock meat, the veggie ham, and then she will take some and put it in front of the baby. And the baby will look at it, and the mother will swallow it down and then bring it back up, and and then she'll get some more, and it's like, here I am, I'm a tutor in the butcher bird school, Butcher Bird Academy. And you see that kind of relationship between generations, and then the baby accompanies the mother. quite wonderful to see how the Chinese in Chinese culture say that the lamb kneels before the mother to drink. When the baby lamb is drinking, the mother ewe's milk, the baby kneels. And the Chinese say, hey, look, filial. She's showing respect. And they say that the crow returns to feed the elderly, aging crow, and it is the case. So, filiality. This is truly the primary lesson of the Ullambana story. Mulianjong, Madhyayana saves his mother. This story moves people. It touches the heart because there's this true uneasy feeling that even mothers can fall. Not everybody's mother has done good deeds. Now, suppose it's something like this. Suppose in the Buddhist world, killing is probably the heaviest of negative deeds that we can do that can result in us in a future life having bad health or even losing our human body. Suppose your mother was a good homemaker and dad, in order to impress his boss, had to throw a banquet. And the banquet included, killing a pig and 10 chickens and ducks and caviar, right? So the mom, without wanting to kill, gives the orders to the people helping her to go out, buy the pig, buy the chickens, buy the fish, kill them, cook them, serve them. It's her karma. And she was being a good helpmate. And you think, well, ask the pig and ask the chickens if they understand that she had no choice. No, mom killed them. So that kind of karma, it's universal. And why do bad things happen to good people? Precisely because of stories just like that. Even mothers can fall. So in a situation like that, here is Mulian saying, I wonder where my mom went. My Tianyan, my Deva eye is now open. I'm going to look. He took a look. Guess where she was? She was in a hungry ghost's body. And the sutra, oh my goodness, the sutra shows us ghost-like behavior. What does Madhyayana's mother do? She gets food that he takes down to her, and then she covers it like this so the other ghosts don't get any. She wants it all to herself, and then she grabs the food, puts it in her mouth, but her karma is such that the food turns to coal and ashes in her mouth, and it burns her. So not only does she have a throat the size of a needle and a stomach the size of a bass drum, she also can't get any food that isn't burning. Oh, right? Madhyayana, I wanted to save my mom and I caused her more suffering. How miserable, how sad, right? So that's a story. We read this and we go, wow. The Buddha tells it the way it really is. True stuff. So, the idea is Madhyayana has now got his psychic powers. He doesn't use them to please himself. He uses them to save his mother. But the story he discovers is she's suffering. Big shock. So, what does he do? He goes to find a good and wise advisor. He goes to find a teacher. And can you imagine how upset, how frustrated he was when he went running to find the Buddha? Help, my mother's a ghost. And the Buddha says, oh, okay. I have a method. I can't just snap my fingers and save her, but we can. The community can do it. It takes a village, right? So he makes an expedient. And it's so interesting for people who study religion. Look how the Buddha lowers his own authority. This is so interesting. The Buddha is willing to give the power to the Sangha, because he knows once he enters nirvana, then the power is gone. If he's the source of all the authority, he says, no, it's the Sangha and their precepts. 以戒为师, he says. So the power is in the Sangha, but you have to get them to work together. The community can do it. This is the end of the Summer Rains Retreat. So the method, and this is how this comes into 2022, we're sitting here in the Buddha Hall, Gold Coast Dharma Realm, and there's a big table full of, let's see, I probably shouldn't try to move. If I could turn my computer around, you could see the Ullambana table over there with all of the goodies that kind-hearted donors here in Queensland have made as offerings to the Sangha. The celebration of Ullambana takes place tomorrow and the next day, but the actual day is next Friday. We usually put it ahead to the nearest weekend. So this week, the tables will still be up at the monasteries, no matter whether it's City of 10,000 Buddhas, or Berkeley, or LA, or Sacramento, or San Francisco, or Seattle, or Vancouver, or Calgary, or wherever you might be, here in the Gold Coast, or Sydney, or Melbourne, or Brisbane, wherever you are. If you would like to pick up the Buddha's method, and you yourself make offerings on behalf of 7 generations of parents past, there is an opportunity to do so. And what is appropriate? We don't take ducks, we don't take Shaoxingjiu, we don't take Budweiser, alcohol, and anything that involves killing. Better not to make those kind of offerings, but pretty much anything that people would like to offer on behalf of your parents. According to the teachings of the Ullambana Sutra, sure, go ahead. And again, the idea is, what do we say? We are not begging. Nowhere in the sutra is the Sangha doing anything except accepting offerings, taking what people offer. So what would we say? We say, should you care to practice generosity, if you want to make an offering, we're happy to accept it. But it's up 100% on you, whether you would like to make an offering. So and Ullambana is a 1 day, 1 week in advance, when the monastery is open for people to make offerings. So that's how this timeless, ageless story makes it into the 21st century. Okay. Now, that's pretty much what I wanted to say tonight. We're just kind of skimming over the top. We recited the sutra, once in English, once in Chinese. There's actually a mantra. On Ulambana, mostly we do it 3 times. Namo mili do do poyeso. There's a mantra for repaying parents' kindness. Bao fu mo zhenyan. We didn't do that today, but there will be a chance later on this week. I will also mention that here at the Gold Coast Dharma Realm, we are in the middle of reciting Earth-Store Bodhisattva Sutras for 30 days, 100 times altogether, morning, noon, and night. And in the evenings, on this very same Zoom link, you can join in, you can listen in. The sutra is recited in Chinese, but if you would like to set up a paiwei, if you would like to listen in or recite along, you can do so. And it is first class gongda, excellent, sheng gongda, to be able to recite along with the Sangha and the community the Earth-Store Bodhisattva Sutra. And there is a deep connection between Earth-Store Bodhisattva and Madhyayana's story. Both have to do with the dark side, down in the hells and the ghost realm. So that's a word to the wise if people would like to do that. Okay. Usually we go really quickly past the Ulambana Dharma. It's rare that we have a chance to go into it and explain all of the wonders. But it's one of my favorite sutras because it brings forward this deep connection between generations. The idea that Magayana's mother was already gone, but he could still help her out. What is working is the memory in his heart of his mother's kindness to him. The kindness of bringing him into the world, and the kindness of feeding him when he couldn't feed himself, raising him, protecting him, educating him, giving him his identity, his connections. All of that came from the kindness of his parents. But then she left the world and he didn't forget her. That's a strong, strong message. And personally, I really like that Buddhism teaches that. Our teacher, Master Xuanhua, was a filial son. As I said, he spent 3 years by his mother's graveside after her passing. There are other religious traditions in the world that say something very, very different. That you should not worship ancestors. You should not keep your connection to your grandparents. Actually, I can tell a story. I'll finish tonight with a true story. So, in California, there are lots of men and women who grew up. In this case, this gentleman grew up in Taiwan, but they came to America for education, and then they went on and got a job, in this case, in IT, in Silicon Valley. And I won't mention the name, but we'll just say that his name was Mr. Chen. Let's say his name was Chen. Okay. So he came, smart guy, got a really good education, got a job working at Cisco, making computer peripherals and switches and things. His mother was still in Taiwan, and she was a good woman. She had deep faith, kind of minjian xinyang. She had common folk belief. So on her altar at home, she had her Zuxian Pai Wei. She had the memorial plaques for a couple generations of grandparents on both sides. Now, the man, Mr. Chen, who lived in San Jose, but who came up to CTTB, I got to know him pretty well because he was a good practicing Buddhist. And he had a younger brother, a Didi, back in Taiwan, who got baptized and born again. I won't name the religion, but he became a born-again believer in another kind of religion in Taiwan. And so our friend Mr. Chen got a phone call from his mom, and she was screaming. She was incoherent. She was beside herself. She said, "You know what he did? You know what he did? He took all of our Zuxian Pai Wei. He took them out to the curb, poured gasoline on them, and burned them, and then chopped them up with an axe. What's wrong with my son? What's wrong with your brother? He's gone crazy." And so Mr. Chen calls his Didi back in Taipei, says, "What did you do?" And the Didi said, well, I just got baptized, and they say you shouldn't have all these demonic plaques. You should only love the founder of our religion, he said. Filiality is superstition, it's evil, he said. So I'm helping Mother out, he said. And so the older brother went, oh my God, hung the phone up. And the mother called him back, and she said, what am I going to do? Last night in my dreams, she said, all these figures wearing white robes came to me and knelt in front of me and said, what have you done? Where are we going to live now? And she said, what can I say? I woke up in a cold sweat. I'm terrified. And what have we done? And so Mr. Chen, what did he do? He called me. He said, hey, Fasher, what am I going to do? My mother had all these white-robed preachers come to her in a dream because my stupid idiot brother burned the pieways and smashed them. What do we do? And I said, you're asking me? I'm not Chinese. What do I know? I don't know anything about ancestor worship. I said, but let's think this through. I said, do you have any Zushen Paiwei, ancestor plaques at your home? He says, no, I figured I didn't need to because my mom had them. I said, can you do that? I said, you could probably get them. He says, yeah, Chinatown, San Jose, there's places to buy blank Paiweis. So I said, okay, bring them in. So he brought them, and we got them all and wrote the right. I had to find out, I had to ask what's the right formula to write. But he called back and got the names of the ancestors and the Paiweis that had been on his mother's altar, and he wrote it correctly. And I said, okay, now take these, make a clean space next to your home Buddha altar, make a space, and make it nice and clean, and put them there. Get a censer, shanglu, and light some incense, put some food, make some bread, water, make it really nice, and apologize, and invite them, and recite the Restore Sutra, and see what happens. And so he said, okay, I'll do that. And so he did exactly as we planned, and he created the Paiweis, made them very nice, put them next to his own Buddha altar at home. And that night, in a dream, something happened. He called me the next morning. This is now the third day after the mother called him. He says, Fasher, last night while I was sleeping, he said, I saw these figures come into the house. And I had this really good feeling. And I called my mom, and she said she had the same dream. That she had a good feeling that the crisis was over, and that the parents had visited themselves. And so he said, who knew that this could be real? He said. So I said, yeah. So now keep the offerings going. And every time, if you can recite the Restore Sutra at home, he says, this is, it's money in the bank, so to speak. It's merit and virtue that you can transfer. So now, Mr. Chen, that's the story, true story. And Mr. Chen is Chinese, and he has in the tradition of ancestors and Paiweis. So if we, like myself, I didn't have this perspective of that in the home there could be a place where past relatives could be honored and respected. So for me and anybody else who's like hearing this, to kind of think, oh man, maybe I better, if I don't put up an ancestor Paiwei, I'm going to have a bad dream. Don't you have to think that way? We don't have to create a culture if the culture doesn't have that aspect. However, we can look at our relationships with our own parents. How are we doing? Are our parents in this life connected to us? Are they feeling that their children care about them? Do you know how they're doing tonight? How did they make it through COVID? How are they thinking about what's ahead for them? Have you had any conversations with your parents about their feelings about being older, day by day? It might be nice to check in on them. So I don't think we have to put up ancestors' plaques in our home somewhere to make sense of this teaching, but I think it would be really helpful to give them a call, wherever they might be, and just listen. And what are they going to say? They're going to say, fine, I'm fine, don't worry. But listen behind it, and ask them, whether we couldn't plan a visit and check in, are they, how do they make it through quarantine and things like that? It really counts, because we and they are deeply connected. And although we say, oh, this is my mother, my father, do we know who they were in the past? No, we don't. So it's a good thing to do, to check up and to keep those deep ties alive and flowing with good, caring energy. And certainly our children will be watching us as we connect with our parents. As they say, of all the wholesome virtues, filiality is number one. If there's even a single filial child in the family, the whole family knows peace. And filial children in turn produce filial children. And all the filial ones go on to become worthy sages. 天地重孝，孝当先。一个小子全家安，孝顺患生，孝顺子，孝顺子弟必名贤。Okay, so we have one more thing to do. Let's see. Question here. If we have set up permanent paiways for ancestors in the temple, should we still have paiway at home? If you've done it in the temple, you've done it. That's a very nice thing to do, because the monks and nuns are reciting all the time. If you would like to do it at home because you feel connected to them, no harm. And this is all from a heart of love and care. There's no rules. As soon as we have fear in there, I set it up, I forgot, don't think of it that way. In the story I told, there was actual violence done, and their homes were ripped away from them. But if they're there in the temple, of course they're happy. They probably play mahjong with the other spirits at night. What do you suppose they do there? So, yeah. Okay, it is time now to transfer the merit and to get on with our work of keeping the Dharma moving. Happy Ullambana for everybody. COVID is still alive in the world, so we're going to recite a mantra. This is Mahayana's power tool for dispelling calamities and lengthening life. It's a mantra in Sanskrit, but we use it to transfer merit. So we do it 3 times, it's there on the screen. If you can learn it and recite it, it's so good. It puts a light in your heart. And you might be in a situation where the COVID virus is there, but if your heart is full of light, the virus has a harder time sticking in your lungs. So let's recite together. Make a wish, transfer the merit. Here we go. Ready? Here we go. Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Ayata Asaji Asaji Aisaja Samugate Swaha Om Namo Bhagavate Aisaja Samyak Sambuddhaya Ayata Aisaji Aisaji Aisaja Samugate Swaha. One more time. Om Namo Bhagavate Aisaja Samyak Sambuddhaya Ayata. Last chance. Aisaji Aisaji Aisaja Samugate Swaha. Okay, before we finish, we will bow 3 times to our teacher. And, okay, there we go. Let's see now. Thank you all for joining. Please come back and join our community for reciting the Earth Store Sutra. Okay, here are the Buddhas. We can bow 3 times. Right from where you're sitting at home, you can make 3 half bows. Ready? Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Okay, that's going to do it for us from here. Tomorrow at 12:30, there will be a sutra lecture on the flower garland, the Avatamsaka Sutra. You're welcome to join. Hope to see you then. Amitofo, everybody.